Hello again. Gosh, I'm tiny in the corner there, aren't I? I'll get that sorted in a minute. Welcome to our Sense Sphere News on this Thursday, the 11th of December, trying to make sense and talk sense amidst all the toxic nonsense on everything Doctor Who. Today, the great Peter Capaldi and his wise words and lessons on Doctor Who. The teachings and reflections of the 12th Doctor. It should be a handbook for any good or future Doctor Who actor, I have to say. And I've got a mixture. Some people are thinking it's just from his recent podcast. I've taken the best of that and will advertise that. But I've also taken it from various sources as well of recent note for us to discuss properly, because it's almost like a reappraisal of Peter Capaldi. Now, I'll do this with my good old mucker from Sci-Fi Chronicles 79. Here he is.
Hey, hi mate. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm trying to work out why I've made us like inch eye, private eye, but there you go.
Yeah, you just like shrinking me down. That's what you like, mate. That's what it comes down to.
I love the
Petty
way
so-and-so.
I love the way it does this at the moment, right? It messes on. It won't do. I'm doing that at the moment because it's suddenly decided it won't play ball. Love it, love it. Yeah, so there you go. Now I'll make it inch eye, private eye. Right, there you go. This one might work. There you go. That's a bit better, isn't it?
There we go. There we go. We're in the zone.
We're in the zone. There we go. That's a bit better.
Yeah.
Let me just set this up. God, they make you work hard. You might be planned all day, and then they make you work hard in the last few minutes. There you go. So, welcome everybody. This is going to be a lovely chat because we're talking about one of the great actors we were lucky to have in Doctor Who. It's like ex-prime ministers. Once they've left the role, I always like to hear what they have to say, actually. And I don't know if you caught this podcast or you're just a fan of his anyway.
I haven't seen this one. I was so happy we got Capaldi as Doctor. I remember the announcement and I like punched the air. And the stories let him down. But from what we've had since Capaldi, by gosh, those stories are 10 times better than anything we've had since he's gone. And again, it just shows the class of the actor, really, because even a mundane or a dull script, he could lift it. Great actor.
Yeah. So I've got a lot of nice, interesting lessons from Peter Capaldi. And he did say all these things. I was trying to say to all of time and space, I'm not in the need for clicky baity stuff. I as a former English teacher, I will always quote accurately. He has said all these things. So you stick by your words, don't you? But he was recently, and it's a very good podcast. Well done, the lad who got it. And so I've used material from that as well of note. Half the Picture with Billy Barnell. Well done. Please give him a like and a subscribe. Great to get that interview, and it's a really good interview. But I've picked out some pieces for us to discuss, so everybody just be aware of that as well. And of course, I've got a friend on here, Sci-Fi Chronicles, and you've got your own little channel there that we'll keep mentioning. There it is, Sci-Fi Chronicles.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's an absolute labour of love for me. That channel. It's the Stargate. Obviously, with the news of it coming back is great, and as you can see with the thumbnail, the image, I've got a Stargate in the background. I've also got the TARDIS there, but it's just doing sci-fi reviews, but we're really ramping up doing Stargate watch parties, Stargate content, and we're also doing the TV series Supernatural watch parties at the moment. We've just started, so we're having a lot of fun on there at the moment, so thanks for shouting it out.
And the other person we need to shout out just before we really get going, because I think it's due courtesy, is Garbage Who, or Garbage AI. Look him up. He's just hit tonight. He's just hit 350 subscribers.
He's a machine.
He's got great content, and everybody go and have a look. You'll see some of his content tonight, which he always contributes as well as moderating. So here we go then. Now this was last year. Before I get to the Billy Barnell interview, Peter Capaldi said, I think the programme has gone through a period where it's become a bit too, well, I don't want to use the word woke, but it's become a bit self-congratulatory and how liberal and right on it is. And I think that's a bit dull, a bit lame. Now, I'm not going to go for the low-hanging fruit, John, but
that's my job.
But it is an interesting point, isn't it? Because I think Peter Capaldi, because later on in the interview with Billy Barnell, he actually says, "Shoot, he's a great doctor," and da 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 da, and he says all the right things as a polite ex Doctor Who. Um, so he's not at that level where he wants to just do counter punches and that sort of thing. He's not playing that game, and he's not stupid. He knows people are talking about woke, anti-woke, and all that stuff. So, and as you can see, he doesn't really want to use that word. But when he says Doctor Who's become a little bit, I think in my language, I'd say a bit up itself, a little
Yeah.
bit like smug, a little bit like. I, I mean, I'm trying to translate this, John, into a few different ways without going down the politics road. For example, I'm thinking, when Doctor Who references itself all the time, too many
Yeah.
flashbacks, too many ex-companions coming back, and Power of the Doctor, and
Well, I think what he's saying there, and again, every time I hear Peter Capaldi speak, he's very reasoned. He's very careful about what he says. He clearly thinks before he lashes out with something to say, and it's always very diplomatic. But essentially, I agree with what he's saying here, because even if you don't use the word woke, I mean, you've just got to look at it now, mate, where like you were just kind of nudging towards there. I mean, let's have a look at what we've had in RTD2. We've had David Tennant back again. We've got Billy Piper back again, and it's all like patting each other on the back and saying how brilliant we are, how brilliant our era is, without actually pushing that. They're pushing that diversity side and saying, look how, like he's saying, liberal we are. But what they're forgetting to do is actually create compelling and interesting stories and create interesting villains and monsters. That is all being put to the wayside for this to take effect, and that's the problem with it. And I think when you look at Peter Capaldi's era of Doctor Who, as I was saying, some people might not like some of the stories in that era, but at least they were putting the stories first. You know,
yeah. I mean, I mean that's the very point. And the other point is Sutek coming back. There's no need. Omega
yeah,
coming back. The Rani coming back. If you really, really do think about it, if you've got strong content and some strong ideas, and you really believe in your program, you don't have to kind of rely on them. We've all criticized or cynically observed, even in the classic era, when a producer thinks, let's get the Daleks back out. And we know why, it's a ratings buster.
yeah,
But if you do it too much, you dilute the effect. Too much of the master, you dilute the effect. And so I'm reading the tea leaves here because we know he's been polite. And I'm not trying to, like I said, go for the political stuff. But I do think Doctor Who has gone a bit, and that's where the 80s got a bit, didn't it? It started to show he's a flashback. He's an old villain again. He's a this, and you're thinking, come on, move forward, like Philip Hinchcliffe did.
yeah. I also think, I don't know Peter Capaldi personally, but I'm pretty sure that he said, and I don't know the word for word, but I think he pretty much said that he had such a good relationship with Stephen Moffat that he could actually talk and he could have a viewpoint on the scripts that were being written. So I think he was the one who was pushing for the Mondasian Cybermen to come back at the
Yeah,
time, wasn't he?
yeah,
So I think certainly in this sort of period, I think that he would have been certainly going in private to someone like Russell T Davies and saying, "No, sorry, this what you've said about Sutek here. This isn't Sutek. This isn't," and pushing back on it. And I think he's such a good actor, and he sounds like a class act that he would rather step away from a show he loves than actually be involved with something that could potentially destroy it. Um, it's I miss him. It was that it was good before it all went downhill for me.
I mean, I know what a lot of people say that moment, from then onwards and all the rest of it.
Mm,
David Harding, hi in Toronto. What's the weather like? Peter Capaldi was the show's last great doctor. Even if his stories frequently let him down, he was able to elevate the stories. Now, there's some of the wise words tonight about his acting, the speeches, the Doctor Who becoming a franchise. There's some interesting stuff. Like I said, I'll say it again, the Billy Barnell interview with him and other interviews.
Yeah.
But well done, Billy, for getting that interview.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you, David and Tomboy Cheek. Before I move on, yes, it was Capaldi who wanted the Mondasian Cybermen. I think as his farewell, wasn't it? Moffat wasn't keen, but admitted his lead was correct. He's a Doctor Who fan, and he's
Yep.
a Doctor Who fan, I think, who is instinctive. Now you can have Doctor Who fans like everything, where you can be so embroiled in it you can't actually see what would work. And then I think there's other people who are quite instinctive and kind of go, I know that will work if you just do it, please, Stephen. And I must admit, because I wasn't brought up with the Mondasian Cybermen, I'd seen the pictures on the Target books and all the rest of it. But when they brought them back, I thought, whoa, it was a good story with them. Brilliant.
Well, I think it's that you always heard it. I had people always used to say to me, "Oh, I don't know if the Mondasian Cybermen would work today in color," and it proved that they do. I think it also stamped home the fact that there are a lot of classic monsters from the past that also would work in color and do very, very well. I mean, we had the Ice Warriors return, didn't we? And you've got a spin-off at the moment which is got what I call Timu Sea Devils at the moment. So they're nothing on the original design. Those designs are fantastic, and I still think they'd work today. I don't like Jodie Whittaker's era at all. As you know, I'm on record for that. But at least they had the confidence to actually go with that original Sea Devil design, and it looked good. It looked fine.
And to be honest, let's be fair, Chris Chibnall in the first season, whether we liked it or not, he did say he's going to try and push forward with new villains. And I do think that is the confidence you have to have if you really truly believe in the Doctor Who brand. That's what you should be doing. And then now and again you think, right, I'll throw that in. Let's do a new version of this.
Yeah,
I think that's the level of it. Is there anything I've missed on this one where he says, I don't want to use the word woke, it's become a bit self-congratulatory? I'm just wondering, the self-congratulatory and the liberal and right on. The other thing that's changed, let's be honest, even since the Moffat era, is we're very, very, very aware of our showrunner and our lead actors' opinions on lots of things.
Yes.
And they might think they're on the right side of everything. But okay, I'm not getting into that. But it's got nothing to do with the story, and it's got nothing to do with looking after the brand Doctor Who. It's more to do with self-promotion.
I think you're right, mate. And I think, we've gone through a decade now of productions globally where they felt, I mean, I've heard it before called hate marketing, where online they deliberately assault verbally the long-time fans. It's almost to gauge a reaction, so it spikes online. But it goes further than that. We got to a point where producers were actively saying to long-time fans, you're not important anymore, we don't care about you, we're moving forward with a new audience. And what happened was pride before a fall. The audience wasn't there, this wonderful mythical new audience that lived in the Himalayas somewhere. It still hasn't been found, is it? We are stuck with the Doctor Who fans that have been here for decades, and we've got general viewers now. That's what we've got, and they're turning off.
And now John doesn't even know this, but he's mentioned the Himalayas, and tomorrow night me and Stefan are doing the missing episode focus on the abominable snowmen. I mean, hello.
You're not. Are you
we
really?
are. Yes, we are.
Oh, yeah. I'm tuning in for that. I love it.
I might as well say that to everybody. So tomorrow night, tune in. Abominable Snowmen, me and Stefan, all the nerdy facts. The missing episodes series continues. So, funnily enough, you mentioned Himalayas.
Yeah. Do you know what? Brendan is actually ramping up production, and he will be doing a live broadcast from the Himalayas at some point with Stefan. In full furry trout and coat, the works, everything. You'll be doing it.
When the sense for you can afford expenses, yes. Long way off.
Yeah.
Peter Harrington, I wouldn't mind if they explored the pteroleptals a little more. Yeah, on that prison planet, and gave them a little more as regards movement. I concur. they're a bit fishy reptilian. Maybe they're going to be in part 3 of the spin-off. You never mind, the
Yeah,
pterodactyls might arrive, you know.
I mean, when you look at it now, and what I hate about it is this new production of Who. One of the other problems as well is, I think I've talked to you about this in private. They've tried to effectively Star Trek the Next Generation alien creatures. Now, don't get me wrong, I adore Star Trek Next Generation, but they always try to make all the alien races look pretty much humanoid, and that's what they've done with new Doctor Who. You know, that they've got to look a bit humanoid. Well, I want a pterodactyl that, you know, looks reptilian, that's going to rip my throat out. You know, that kind of look. You know, that's
Yeah,
what you want.
yeah, that's where we get our kicks, folks. I mean,
sorry, mate. I went off piste there.
oh, the fantasies of John Yule, and there you
Yeah.
go.
Reptilian love.
Yeah, so God, this YouTube channel will be taken off yet. Graham, oh, I'd love it if they could find any Missing Abominable Snowman episodes. Get looking in the snow. But yes, you know Stefan's good. He finds out when it was last broadcast and where they are, and not where they are, where they could be. Tom by Chick, I know I'm weird, but I've always wanted to cuddle one of those Yeti. You're weird. No, I don't think any of us were there, but I've seen the reviews already, and they talk about the abominable snowmen, that was more atmospheric and more terrifying, actually. So you want to cuddle one of them, or do you mean a web of fear Yeti?
I mean, those polar bears look flipping cuddly. I'd love to cuddle up to them, but it would be the last thing I would ever do. Yeah. So, you know, fill your boots.
Well, you know, RTD likes to cross franchise, so I'm going to make her an Empire Strikes Back reference when at the beginning Luke Skywalker had to slice that
Yeah.
snow monster to get the warmth. Yeah. Sorry, there you go. So there we go. That's as starters on the. We've been fair with Capaldi. If all of time and space is still watching, we haven't gone to lay into that. I'm being very fair with Peter Capaldi because I know fine well what he was talking about in that respect, and I'm playing fair on that. So that's that, and we're going to move on. Don't you worry. But would you like to bring these back?
We have other colonies hidden all around the world. We shall be the victors in the war against mankind.
They are coming back, aren't they? I mean, they're doing a climate change series. You can't do that without the Wombles, can you, really?
Well, you can't litter the planet like they did in part 2 of
Yeah.
the spin-off without the Wombles going, hey, mush. That little Orinoco was lazy, as you know, and Orinoco now is going to kick off about having to fill all those bags.
Yeah. Now in this series, you'll see like Wombles going insane, and they'll be drowning people in the pond and stuff like that because they've dropped a Chris wrapper.
Crazy. And just before we go more to the Billy Barnell podcast, and I've put several interviews in 2017. He did so many that they haven't even sourced it actually accurate. He just said this. If you want a children's show, go and watch children's television. Doctor Who is a drama for adults that children can enjoy. Some of the fans are very angry people who want it to be exactly what they remember from when they were 8. That's not going to happen. Now remember, he was still roughly the Doctor here. Can I just say though, since then he's not trying to get the fans angry or anything, and so I'm going to be fair there as well. He was trying to make a point without baiting people, which is it's an adult drama. But sometimes some people do start saying it should be the same as it was. Well, I'm not arguing for that. I think cliffhangers should be back because I actually think episodic TV works now. I think a darker Doctor Who would work. And some people are saying part 1 of the spin-off is kind of hinting that it could have gone that way. Missed opportunity. So I'm being fair, John. He wasn't trying to slag off Doctor Who fans. I think he was just saying, but we can't go back. We've got to keep going forwards. But, you know.
I think I get what he's saying. And again, I agree with you. I don't think he's having a pop at anybody. I think for me growing up, it was always a family show. But the thing about Doctor Who that made it so important was it didn't talk down to me as a kid. I had to, you know, it made me think, you know, about it. Whereas now it's, let's be honest, it's brainless, isn't it? You know, you could watch it. There's no depth to it whatsoever. It is just
Yeah, it's
done and gone.
One example is the Sea Devils Omnibus, which is an improvement on the other two, and I will say that. But it's that literal vent, which is when Joe Grant is in the sea fort and she's asking the doctor, "Oh, didn't you come across these before?" And he just does his dialogue as John Pertwee did. It's about, yeah, there were cave monsters, but they were given the wrong name. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Scenes. And as he's talking, then they show you clips of the Silurians, and to me, that's just lacking nuance and subtlety. It's an editorial decision, but it's a one I don't think it's of its time, which is now, which is nobody's allowed to imagine. I mean, John, that in some stories, I've always mentioned Dark in Space, when it mentions that they get inside your body and ingest
Yeah.
and all the rest. And
Body horror.
my imagination was running riot. I didn't need to see them eating a human on screen. And I just think it's too literal.
Well, you're right. But again, this is why I adored Target books growing up, because I didn't get to see some of the stories on screen. I mean, I remember reading about the Cybermen, and it tells you, how they lost their emotion, how they came to be. It's a great description of them, and it's terrifying. And, sometimes less is more. And I agree with you, because you've got to let the mind's eye imagine these things. And I think there seems to be, not just in Doctor Who, but in general production these days, there seems to be a mindset of everything's got to be filled in, whether it's audio, whether it's on TV, whether it's in movies, where, you can imagine a big creature somewhere, and they'll do an origin story for it. And it's like, you just don't need it. Let us imagine it. It's so much better than what you actually get on screen.
That's probably why we've got into the bit of a pickle that Doctor Who's in, which is from Timeless Children and whatever. Take your pick, everybody. I'm not trying to trigger people tonight, but you can pick an example where did we need to see it, or can we just imagine it ourselves? The Time War's a good one. The Time War reference is really good and dramatic. Did we need to see it? Because just on a sensible decision, since you've only got a limited budget with Doctor Who, can you ever realize what's in our heads?
Exactly right. And, and again, with the Time War, I remember watching that first season. I was like, yes, Time War, brilliant. That's a great idea. I love it. But then it was played out to death, wasn't it? Because it just went on and on and on. And you're like, oh, give it a rest. So I got tired of it after a while. And again, that's where I go back to less is more. You don't show it, you just let people imagine it. It's just, that's what's wonderful about classic Doctor Who. You could watch a story and you're like imagining where they've come from, what their planet's like. It's great, Yeah,
I mean, as soon as I saw Sharaz Jek, I thought, where does he live? No.
Woodhouse. You're actually looking for him.
Everybody thinks it's Adric. I'm just trying to distract, Woodhouse 122. I think Moffat made the show a little too complex in his final series. Some of that Monk trilogy was way too clever for itself. And that's a bit too kind of self-congratulatory. I'm not sure Moffat, Capaldi would be hinting at criticism of Moffat, though. But I can take your point, Woodhouse, definitely. Okay, back on the track. I'm jumping around, playing fair. But yeah, I've always quoted Genesis of the Daleks as my kind of go-to example for saying it was beyond me intellectually. It was beyond me language-wise, concept-wise. It was beyond me. Therefore, I loved it.
And I think that's why that story and others similar, we go back to them again and again because of the layers that they've got. But also when you're talking about backstories as well, just the war with the Khaleds and the Files and all of that, I didn't need to see any of that like from the past. I just was imagining it, and I was like, this is fantastic, especially how it's written in the Target novels as well. Wonderful stuff.
When Raymond Williams, change your name because of the R&Ws that I struggle. I'm like Jonathan Ross. John is right. RTD2 is totally forgettable, disposable fluff, chewing gum for the brain, which is why I haven't bought a new Who Doctor Who box set since Capaldi's series 10. So there you go, John.
Blimey, yeah.
Yeah,
Don't agree with me too often, my friend.
yeah. Well, that's where he lives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So no, yeah, of course he's right. That's why it's good to have him on. Do you think that next year we might get spin-off starring David Tennant? Well, my source says some stuff. This is the problem. I won't put the same slide up, John, but isn't that what Peter Capaldi was saying, really, about being self-congratulatory? But by bringing Donna Noble back, by bringing anybody back, you're patting yourself on the back going, well, I invented Donna Noble and I'll bring her back again. I invented Rose Tyler, I'll bring her back. No,
Well,
leave it.
You're right. It's getting your toys out of the chest again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's basically going, no, I'm just going to play with these. I think we're going to get a Tennant few episodes at least. And I think to myself, again, this is where they've driven themselves into a cul-de-sac now, because they have creatively, they've backed themselves into that corner, and they do not have any other option at the moment to get out of it, unless it's just a quick RTD lazy quick 1 minute throwaway. Oh, by the way, that wasn't really Rose, that was a glitch. Here we go.
I know. This isn't me tonight, folks. Clickbait. They're too self-referential as well. Now, Squinty Mint, thank you for your comment last night on one of our threads. Thank you very much, because we can debate, Mr. Squinty Mint and me. We don't always agree, and that's the beauty
He's good,
of it.
isn't he? Yeah, I'd like seeing Squinty Mint in the chat.
Very supportive, thank you. It's interesting that when they do adult orientated spin-offs, they are not intellectually any more challenging than the classic series. I know they think that, oh John, I don't think you've seen the spin-off yet, but they think they're being clever because they've done a bit of scientific research, and so they mentioned that. I mean, I think I learned this in primary school that 70% of the planet is covered in water. Did you know?
Yeah.
That one or
is
two
it a ladybird book they've looked at?
Yeah, that one or two sea species basically can do a bit of an Alpha Centauri and change things. You know, oh wow, this is good stuff. And then there's a bit where Kate Stewart talks about the pearl, and then they talk about algae and seaweed, and they're saying, can the water have a kind of hive mind? And they think they're off the scale clever, and I'm thinking, oh right, I can see the resolution. Press the button.
Yeah.
Something in the water.
I mean, I've only obviously heard a few things that you said to me about it, but I think I was saying to you, you know, if they want to go full climate change, you've got to go full throttle with it. You've got to have sea devils coming out of the water with cotton wool buds stuck in their nostrils, and, you know, crisp wrappers and beer can holders sort of wrapped around their necks. You know, go full throttle for it, RTD and Pete McTeague. You know, if that's what you want, good, do it.
Yeah, actually, and it would bore us. Let's be honest. You know, and I do think our showrunner and everybody are missing the trick, which is we do want escapism. We want to just enjoy the thrill of an adventure. I mean, these look good. Will they give us an adventure next week? I don't know. Plastic always wins. So far, anyway. Anyway, there you go. But yeah, if there weren't the Sea Devils, I'd be quite happy with that. Actually, I really would.
Yeah.
So yes, Peter Capaldi said it's an adult drama, and yeah, there's something about the fans. You can never really always please the fans. I think we all know that. I know that on this stream. I mean, I don't start the stream and somebody argues about a thumbnail. I mean, my spin-off review one, that one, it was a question. Was it a damp squib, or did it make a big splash? It had a question mark, and people you know, you can't win, I have to say.
You can't.
So I agree, Peter Capaldi. I agree. Now this I wanted to link with Matt Gattis, because as you know, this year he also kind of had a go at the fans as well. It has a similar vibe. Sometimes when I meet grumpy old Doctor Who fans, you think you've fallen into the same space time trap, that it's not as good as it used to be. And as you know, he talks about the nostalgia weapon. I don't think Peter Capaldi was saying that. I think he was just saying there are some people who say it should be exactly as it was. I might say I love Genesis of the Daleks. I like the Philip Hinchcliffe era. I like season 19, etc. I don't want them to replicate it. The format, I think we need to change from its present one. That's all I'm saying there. So,
I mean, Doctor Who's always evolving and moving forward, and that's how it should be. But you know, it should always maintain the core essence of what Doctor Who has always been. The trouble that you've got now is they've they've taken it so far away from what it is, you know, to make it a show that is just about pandering and preachy, you know, content. That's their primary purpose of the stories now. That the story. I mean, again, you look at the stories that you had in the Gatwa era. Most of them are disposable ones, you know, that you're never going to go back to and watch again, purely because they're so forgettable. And that's my opinion. But that's the trouble now, that they've forgotten any element of what Doctor Who was about. I mean, we looked at the last series. How many monsters do we have in that story? You know, that's what I can't get. Doctor Who's about the TARDIS and monsters and the Doctor, but you're not putting many monsters in it. You're kind of almost making humanity more the monster.
I think it's trying to cut through, you know, like the arguments that people throw at you now. For example, I suppose you can do one fantasy Doctor Who story. We've had them in the past. They're not my thing, but you can, I suppose. But it's when you do a whole 2 seasons of fantasy Doctor Who that I think you've absolutely lost it. And therefore you've distorted the brand. Gary Lee, good to see you. Doctor Who was never navel gazing during the classic run. At least nowhere to the extent it has been since 2005. It has reached narcissistic levels of self-aggrandizement during the last woke decade. Now, I can think of moments in Classic Who, but I think Gary Lee's hinting at that. There's 1 or 2 moments where you thought, maybe they're just getting a bit kind of, let's do that again, let's do that. Because John Nathan Turner was very aware. He was trying to keep the thing afloat, wasn't he? Yeah. And I think when you reference the narcissistic levels, Gary, you could almost be marrying with Peter Capaldi talking about self-congratulation. It's never a good thing to go, oh, well done me. Well done me. Isn't this program great? Who likes a program that's up itself? I hate it when any program does that. That's why we can argue till the cows come home, can't we, about the Feast of Stephen? We can argue about Stones of Blood when, you know, there's a bit of a nudge and a wink. And of course, Devil's Cord. I'm about to kill somebody.
Yeah, but it's also, mate. It's also that it is self-congratulatory, but it's not earned. You know, when the viewing figures are dropped like a stone, when people are tuning out to it, you then get to the point where it's like, well, you're only making the show for you in the production team and a small element of the people that think like you. You're not trying to make something that entertains the general public. You know, that's the trouble we're in now. And they seem to delight in it.
Well, Tara's got a good point here. Any previous Doctors or companions they bring back would be disappointed with the fan reception because the stories are poorly scripted. I think it's a danger to bring people back. Yeah. Rose, as in Billie Piper, is a loyal stalwart. She knows they bigged up her career, and they did. And so she's got trust in them like they are trusting hers. I understand that kind of loyalty and I applaud it. But I think other people coming in from the past, it's be careful. You know, those Tales of the TARDIS, I'm not sure about at all.
I hate them.
But I hate them. And it's a stupid idea anyway. John Sweeney, 2027 Doctor Who needs to get back to a more adult as it was during Tom Baker's time. But we all know what the BBC are like, and Capaldi could be right. So there needs to be a change at the top of the BBC. Good luck with that, John. How long will that be? You know, I think
I'll be long gone.
Yeah, I'll be a very old man when that blooming happens. But funnily enough, this is what Capaldi said, and I was trying to get the date. I think it was when he started. The fact that 12 is going to be darker and more manipulative than his new predecessors so says Moffat, and I have no reason to doubt him, is amazing. I'm a bit tapped out for whimsy, you know, I want dark. This is, so he got the job, was it 2013 area?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for him to say then, 12 years ago, everybody, I'm a bit tapped out of whimsy now. Whimsy then. And I'm going to say it, I might be overreaching. I understand that, everybody. But it sounds as though this quote and the one I started at the beginning, are they both possibly a judgment on the RTD eras, not Moffat's? That too much whimsy, too light, too flippant.
I think so, because when he started, and I've had many disagreements with people that say they preferred it when they toned Capaldi's Doctor down. I didn't. I liked it when in that first, you know, Into the Dalek, you know, the woman, he saves the woman, she points the gun at him and he's like, no, get it right, you know, and he has a go at her, you know, in the TARDIS. I liked that. I liked that element of his Doctor, and I thought there was a bit of tapping into sort of like where the Seventh Doctor was going. There was also an element of when Hartnell, his first Doctor, used to get crotchety at times. I don't agree with when people always say Hartnell's Doctor was the grumpy Doctor, because if you watch his stories, he's actually quite cheeky in a lot of his stories.
Yeah.
And Colin Baker with his Sixth Doctor portrayal. So I like the fact they were going that route. I was getting a little bit, I adored Matt Smith, but towards the end of Matt Smith, it was getting a little bit too, you know, when he was dancing around the corridor and kissing girls on the lips and stuff like that, you know, it was
looking up Queen Elizabeth's skirt. I don't think that's allowed now, you know.
Yeah.
Doctor. You know, Doctor Who's been banned upskirting. I mean, honestly, how did they get away with that? I mean, that was a bit naughty. Michael Nemo, good to see you, and you're always so supportive. Thank you. The recent season 21 preview is the best Doctor Who since 2017. I was taken in with nostalgia and suspension of disbelief. I'll die on that hill. All of the elements that Who needs is in there. The Merker?
You're going to see that soon. You're going to see that soon. The Merker with lipstick is coming.
It might be coming. I mean, I think we're going to have to rephrase everything.
Dancing down the corridor in a sea base, listening to Culture Club, you know.
I mean, we did talk about season 21 just last week, didn't we? And we're all excited about it. It's a nice era. But I have to say, Michael,
I had my concerns with it.
There's Planners of Fire, you know, Chameleon, there's The Awakening, which had me nodding off. I know it was still better than, you know, I know, I take your point, Michael, and of course I do have to kind of, you know me with my video segments, but thank you very much, Michael. Toxic masculine there, I think.
That'll get more views than the actual episode, I reckon.
He lost it, didn't he? He lost the room with that. So this is from the recent podcast, Half the Picture it's called, with Billy Barnell. So I'll always advertise that. Well done, son. Now, Peter Capaldi here said, the worst thing about Doctor Who is everybody's got an opinion. Now, this is not to trigger everybody. He doesn't mean us fans necessarily in that way. He's talking about behind the scenes. He said, you've got to go through all these hoops and you've got to please everybody. And also you're the new guy, you're the new person. And the costume is so important to them. And some of the things they come up with are just, you know, you go, I can't wear that. But I just wanted to reach back to the early days of Doctor Who that I remembered as a kid, which were in black and white, obviously. So I wanted a black and white costume, which they didn't like at all because they like colour. So this is me starting to talk about, John, in this part of the podcast. It was really interesting because we hear this, that who owns Doctor Who? Who has the final say on how the Doctor looks, who the Doctor actor is, the style and pitch of the programme? And my source tells me that honestly, they pull every drama apart. They almost ruin it. And Peter Capaldi from a decade ago seems to be saying, yeah, they were tampering with his costume and his ideas too much. He didn't like it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, like I said to you, it started with a darker Doctor, and then I think there was. You remember? I vaguely remember that there was pushback against his dark tone as a Doctor, so they softened him. But then it started to go into silly things like coming in on a tank with a guitar and
then
the shades. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, that's what he means about whimsy. I would also say, with regards to the production, I'm pretty sure that Moffat would have allowed him to have input on costume, but then, like you and the source have kind of said before, there's links in the chain. So an exec higher up will go, no, I don't like that. He's got to be wearing something like this. So they then have to change that. And then someone else further up goes, no, I don't agree with that. He's got to wear this. And next thing you know, it's a watered down version of what the actor envisaged when he was preparing for the role.
And funnily enough, because obviously with a few slides else, I'll show you, he does kind of talk about how that a new designer comes in, etc., and things change. Funny enough, pure historical, we love balance. I know John just said the opposite, and I agree with John more. But pure historical says, I love the tank with the guitar scene. And,
fair enough.
Yep. Aurum it is. The tank, guitar, and shades was ridiculous. So you see, right next to each other.
Yeah. So
you can't please everybody. That's what he said.
Exactly.
So he had opinion, and I will be fair, or very fair. Ncuti Gatwa had opinions on how he wanted to look. We know how it ended up. Clearly, that wasn't his decision, though.
I mean, I'm not a fan of Ncuti Gatwa. I mean, I think you and I know that I'm on record of saying that I'm not a fan of Ncuti Gatwa. But imagine getting the role and then being told that your first scenes effectively are going to be dancing around in a pair of underpants. I mean, your head must drop at that point, because you're like, oh, I wanted to do this with it, a bit of gravitas here, there. No, you're going to be in pants. It must be soul destroying when you're at that point.
Yeah, I hear, and I did a stream on this, didn't I? That I think you're on it, when I was talking about Ncuti Gatwa, and he was disappointed with that, and Disney was disappointed with that. So although whether you like that era, the 15th Doctor or not, it wasn't his decision, and Peter Capaldi was saying people were nibbling away at him regarding that.
Yeah.
As John Sweeney says, the Sixth Doctor's costume is the third worst thing to happen in Doctor Who, with Whittaker being the second and Gatwa being the first. John, you have to just wonder how far these people the people top down are affecting this. Peter paints a lot. I love all these nicknames.
Yeah.
Moffat made it too much about the people rather than the story and the adventure, which turned it a bit semi-soap opera. I think for every reason, some of you might love the puns and River Song. As soon as River Song was the daughter of the Ponds, and as soon as the Ponds got married, and I just thought, oh, look, it's as if
we all saw it coming as well, though, when it was trying to be painted as like this really clever twist that was to come. We all kind of figured it out, a lot of us quite far ahead. We were like, it's going to be Amy and Rory's daughter, isn't it? That's coming. But I don't know. I mean, again, I would love Doctor Who to come back. I would love Doctor Who to go back to a more serious tone. And I think Mr. Squinty Mint, he said in the chat, the big problem at the moment is that one person has been making all the creative decisions. I agree with that 100%. Is bang on there, because, and also it's only people that think the same way that are being involved in the production process. It's got to get back to a point where personal politics and all that is taken out of the equation, and just the best people are hired to do it. Because I've said to you before when we've been on streams, you might not agree on things, but that's where you get the creative tension. That's where you create magic out of something, because you're like, no, I'm going to push back on that. That's not very good. Okay. And you keep going until you come up with something and it works. Now it's literally a room where everyone's going, you know what, this is a great idea.
It's a bit like adversity. You know, we said adversity helps the creativity, and we know that from classic Who, like adversity being the rubbish budget and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
It's the same when somebody pushes back on your opinion. So pretend I'm showrunner. Say I'm Philip Hinchcliffe, producer, and you're Robert Holmes, and you push back on one of my ideas for a story I'd like us to do. I think the creative people should be doing is more like this, which is, why is that, John? What do you mean? And then I'm not saying shut up, it's my show. Then thinking, right, how do we work around this? And you start to manipulate things. I think that's the beauty of it. What happened in the past? It went a bit wrong with J&T and Eric Saywood, of course. It can go wrong. But at this era, we hear enough that everybody just agrees.
Yeah.
It's sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, mate, I've been watching like a documentary on Stargate at the moment, and the SG-1 series, and it talks in there about the writers were pitching to the exec producers, and the exec producers were just diplomatically pushing back, and they're saying, well, we could do it, but we don't have the budget to do the effects for that. So we need to alter it here. You know, we need to change the script a certain way to make it work. And yeah, there would be pushback, but everyone was an adult in the room, and they worked the problem. You know, some stories just didn't work as an arc in that season. You know, that's what it should get back to. But I think now the trouble is, it's like, right, we are doing it this way. You're going to like it, and everyone in that room is pretty much on board with what is happening. That's where we are.
And do you know what? I will. Gosh, am I drunk? I'll say this to try and be fair. It is possible that if they'd had somebody questioning them in a creative way, Space Babies maybe could have been saved. Now, hello everyone.
Right, I'll see you later, everyone.
I'm doing that.
Bye.
It's possible that there was a germ of an idea. Yeah, I know. I'm really trying to be so decent here. But you never know. I would have got rid of most of the story, but they could have twisted it maybe. But no, maybe he wanted talking babies, blah, 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 blah. That's a starting point. Then they get on to, no, we'll have a talking slug instead. And whatever, you end up somewhere else. So he talks about his costume, Peter Capaldi, being tampered. When I say tampered with, different opinions. And then he says, I actually went to Paul Smith, the designer. I said, I just really think it needs to be something quite cool looking, but quite dark. Notice he likes dark. I like Capaldi. Everybody who's new in the show wants to do a new thing with it. That's the trouble. So he's a new jacket, or he's a new pair of trousers, or he's a new look. I'm the new designer. He's a new thing. Well, I don't want a new thing, said Peter Capaldi. And so you wonder about when he had the tank scene. You wonder when he had the hoodie. You wonder, don't you, whether he was starting to think, I liked my silhouette at the beginning.
Yeah.
Me and Paul Smith picked it. It was a hark back to an earlier era of Doctor Who. That's allowed. Everybody says they hark back to Troughton half the time, don't they? So that's what I want. I mean, to me, Capaldi had that blend. He looked pretty Pertwee-ish, didn't he?
Yeah, I just think he looked, in that first season, it looked great. The costume he had on, it just worked for me, and I loved him in that story. In that season, I liked him when they softened him, but I didn't like it as much as in his first season. And again, if you're going to bring in an actor with the caliber of Peter Capaldi, at least listen to his inputs and go with them.
Yeah, totally.
Crazy.
I mean, well, you listen to him now, the gravitas he's got. So whoever decided to use Space Babies as a season opener should be jailed. You know that I use Space Babies as my daft example. I'm now going to be duly drawn and quartered by the thread. Here we
Well,
go.
I tell you what happens if those nappies crash into the earth, mate? You know, that's
Oh,
going to cause a climate problem, isn't it?
yeah, get them wombles onto it. Tomboy
Yeah.
chick. They should never have tried to make the babies talk. It looked weird and creepy. Yeah, it did. That's what I mean. You can maybe have saved Space Babies if you then pushed back on the concept.
Yeah.
I'm going to be quoted to death now. I know. Squinty meant it's the actor who's got to be seen in it. It should be their shout. Yeah, I think there's an element like that. Peter Harrington. Well, he's my twin. The hoodie. I didn't like that. I didn't. Now there might be a Doctor who in the future does have a hoodie. Maybe I won't be watching it then. You know, jogging bottoms and all the rest of it. I mean, can you imagine it? It's like, but to have a Pertwee-esque silhouette. And then the next minute he's wearing a hoodie and sunglasses. He looked like a middle-aged man trying hard. And
Yeah,
I
he
thought,
did. Yeah.
no. And I don't want my Doctor like that because the Doctor doesn't try to impress anybody.
Yeah. Don't be cool for the kids, you know, just you know, you're just an anomaly. You just your presence makes you fit in. You know, here I am, I'm barging through. You know, I don't mind Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor coat. I mean, over the years, I've grown to it. You know, it's very 80s, you know, flamboyant colours and all of that. But, you know, when you watch him in some of his stories, there isn't really that problem about the coat because it's just Colin Baker's presence when he turns up in the scene. And it's the same with Capaldi. I mean, Capaldi is just, when you see him in those scenes, he's like, he owns it. You know, the Zygon quote speech, as I'm sure you'll talk about, but it's just brilliant. Yeah.
So
Crafty
it's interesting on the Paul Smith thing. I love just that Capaldi keeps saying he wanted a darker Doctor, a darker tone, and I thought, actually, do you know what, Capaldi, you were spot on. It's interesting, actually. He didn't quite agree with Stephen Moffat, really, did he? Because Stephen Moffat seemed to take it a little bit fantastical, a little bit, you know, the Christmas episodes, you know, a bit interesting. It was a strange blend. Anyway, obviously those plastic ducks have been getting whopped by that Homo Aqua, and so the final part of the trilogy is here. Yeah, that's the end of him. It's a busy channel. It's a busy channel. That's all I can say. Not being political. It's a busy channel. There's your good old Mondasian Cybermen.
Oh, look at that. I mean, it's fantastic. I'm so glad that happened. I really am. You know,
well, I think the scene that got me the most, and I think is beyond scary. You know, we had the gas mask with the World War II, and that really worked. I use my money. But in this one, when you had that Mondasian Cyberman with basically he just had this, you know, he was like lamb chops. He was just the salt. And pain. That is. Do you know what?
That was creepy.
Because Capaldi says it's an adult drama that the kids enjoy, and he's spot on because the kids would have been on the edge of their settee, just keeping an eye on where Mum and Dad are. Yeah. That is whoa.
Well, again, you're 100% correct on that, mate. Because again, that goes back to the tell don't show, because you got the pain bit, and you're making the viewer imagine just what is going on under that mask. What's going on with the rest of the body. You don't need to see it, but the fact that he's just hitting that pain button, and the fact that the sister man comes in and literally just turns the volume off.
Oh no, that
chilling.
Well, yeah, it introduced us to maybe being in the NHS now. Satire. Nurse. If everybody remembers, when I was on another stream years ago, when I did a live broadcast from a hospital ward, remember that one?
Yeah.
And I used to obsess about the drip because the drip kept slowing down, and I thought if that drip doesn't work, I'm going to be staying in hospital. Nurse.
Yeah.
I must have been slightly painful that the drip stopped.
Yeah.
That's all I was bothered about, the bloody drip. So
I
yes,
can't believe
I get it.
I can't believe that you let them change your bedpan during the show either, mate. You know, that was just another level for you. That really was. Anything
Clickbait.
for a view.
Clickbait. I could see Space Babies before it happened. So yes, a brilliant doctor was Peter Capaldi. Never got tired of watching his stories. Well, he tells you more about the acting process in a minute, so I'll move on to that actually. And so on this costume thing, he said it's so difficult to keep an idea pure. This is what you were saying, John, because it gets mediated through because people turn up with other ideas, and what might have been the gem of a brilliant idea or the core of a good idea just starts to be pulled apart. Do you know it's fascinating? He's another decade on from being the doctor. He sounds like he's saying that they knew what they wanted with his doctor, but they didn't quite end up where he wanted as the doctor.
Tampering. Yeah. And again, you know, we know that, you know, towards the end of his run, you had all of the sort of woke stuff that they were starting to drop into it, you know, the comments about when he was a little girl and all of that, which was just seeding it because they knew they were going to go down the Jodie Whittaker route. And you know, he's not going to say it publicly. I don't know Peter Capaldi. I don't know his opinions, but I bet reading the script and seeing some of this stuff, and again, Moffat would have been probably pressured into doing it because he had to fill the diversity quotas. But it must really make your heart, you know, your head sink, you know, and drop, because you're like, oh, why have they put that in? You know, we had a really good story here. It was going so well. Why are we having to put this into the script?
Yeah,
You know,
it's interesting. Mr. Ash Lamont, I'm always fascinating. Sometimes, you know what it's like. When I see something different, I like to kind of explore it. So you might have to answer for us and come back.
yeah,
Much as I love Capaldi, I feel now that he was a doctor for the fans, not for the general viewers, if that makes sense. Interesting
get that.
point. Interesting point.
Very good point. Very good.
We're all fans. We're in the room already. We're just saying why we like him.
Yeah.
I saw earlier somebody saying he was a lovely blend between the Hartnell and Pertwee doctors.
Yeah.
But we're all Doctor Who fans. So is Mr. Ash Lamont onto something, which is, but why didn't it grab the public like the Matt Smith one did or the David Tennant one did?
I think, again, this is me playing devil's advocate a bit on it, but I think the trouble that you had, the general audience who maybe not always been Doctor Who fans, they'd been kind of programmed in a way to be familiar with the young, pretty Doctor, you know, and then all of a sudden, and I actually have so much respect for Moffat for going with it and going, do you know what? I want an older Doctor now. I want a more mature Doctor, like past classic Doctors. And he went for it, and I just think that, I would say, is probably the problem with the general audience, that, you know, a lot of the fans that we get now that, you know, loved Shooty and they loved Jodie, they were also ones that were looking for the next pretty Doctor, you know, to swoon over. And again, that's not me saying, you know, Peter Capaldi's ugly, but he's an older Doctor, and I like the fact that he was a grumpier Doctor. He was someone that wouldn't just sit on the fence. He would literally tell you how it was.
I think I think there was just an accident. I'm not knocking Stephen Moffat too much, but I think he just didn't quite get what you could have done with a Peter Capaldi Doctor. If he had gone a little bit more Malcolm Tucker, you know, like when you saw the Fourth Doctor take on Morbius and say, I doubt it. And you know, when he kicked off the early Fourth Doctor, when he really kicked it, or John Pertwee's Doctor, when he told off the establishment and told off aliens and said, on Peladon, you sort this out, hey, you know. Surely a Peter Capaldi 12th Doctor could have just held the room and said, what the hell is, and had a bit of attitude.
Yeah. I think also, mate, one thing that always threw me with that era, and again, it's such a shame, is because they had the whole talking to Clara and going, am I a good man? You know, and it's like, how many centuries are you in now? You should know by now if you're a good man. And I thought to myself, it doesn't really go with Capaldi's Doctor, because Capaldi's Doctor is confident, he's arrogant, He'd tell people how he thinks. Why would he give us stuff to compare to you know, to ask someone, am I a good person? He would just do what he does. You know, I
And
don't understand it.
doesn't it slightly forget what the Doctor is normally like? This is when our super fans who are showrunners suddenly kind of tweak the Doctor, and you're going, hold on, the Doctor was never vain. The Doctor moaned about being 750 in Pyramids of Mars. That's about it,
Yeah.
really. The Doctor isn't trying to please a room. He just tries to get things right. And am I a good man? That's irrelevant. I'm more about saving the planet. You know,
Exactly. And again, this is the point me and you have discussed many a time. And I've said that, you know, when you look at an unearthly child, you look at the first Doctor. The first Doctor was going to kill somebody at one point because all he thought about is, he's slowing us down. I need to get us back to the TARDIS. That's how he was thinking. You then got Pyramids of Mars, as you were saying, we've talked about many a time, where Sarah has a go at him, and sometimes you're not human. And he's effectively, he says flea biting as well, doesn't he? Because he's looking at the bigger problem. So I've always had this irritation with people over the last few years where they say, you know, they come out, and Shooty said it as well, the Doctor is love. That's complete rubbish. You know, the Doctor isn't love. The Doctor, he doesn't care about politics. He doesn't care about all of the nonsense. All he cares about is basically saving the planet or saving a colony from the big bad that has turned up.
And maybe the answer, you know, when we say, I mean, he was only in his 50s. It wasn't like you've got an octogenarian Doctor, you know, it gets ridiculous. But the Peter Capaldi 12th Doctor could have been cool, as in Doctors were cool, which is they're anti-authority, they're the rebel, and they take on the system. They are the pariah. That is why we all love Doctor Who. He took on the room. He took on the scientists. He took on the establishment. He argued with the Time Lords.
Yeah.
And so the Peter Capaldi Doctor didn't have to wear shades. He didn't have to wear a hoodie. And he didn't have to be 20 years younger to please the audience. He needed to be out there and just anti the crud.
Well, you're right. And again, you know, to back that up is the speech he gives in the Zygon inversion. He doesn't go in there with shades. He just gives this speech, and he basically calls it how it is, you know, about pressing the button. You know, this is a scaled down version of war, which is brilliantly written by Moffat, and it's played superbly by Capaldi. The Doctor doesn't care. All the Doctor's trying to do is solve the problem. You know.
He continues here, and this is where it gets really interesting, John, on some of the things he said. So basically on this section, he's talking about when he's an actor, as a Doctor Who fan as well, he's in prime position to be the Doctor. And then suddenly he says the branding, the franchise concept starts to ruin it. So he says there were more things that you had to do rather than just, you know, be. I think in the old days, you know, if you were John Pertwee or Tom Baker or something like that, you probably spent most of the year making it and then a bit of the year promoting it. But it wasn't this in your face kind of thing that was suddenly really important to the BBC or suddenly really important to a brand that had to be maintained. And it's, you know, you think and you lament, is this the way every Doctor Who actor has to be now? And maybe we're going to lose something. And maybe certain actors we're going to lose, because not every actor is going to put up with this. It's a hell of a brand to try and lead. And he gives one example. If I get it up here now, let me just get this right. I'll bring that back, the photograph. If I don't get it now, I'll reference it now, because that's, to be fair, John. He mentions when they were making Heaven Sent, he said for 3-4 days they had to suddenly leave making the production to go to San Diego.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think that sounds like something's wrong. That we're actually putting almost the branding either level with the production, or actually it's I just think the production should be first, second, and third in priority.
This is where I've always had a gripe with it, and you know, I've had a lot of pushback on this before, but you know, the Matt Smith era really is when it took off in the US, and somebody in the marketing team or BBC Studios thought, right, we need to switch now to focusing on building a US audience, a global audience, and they focused on Comic-Con. Because if you remember, they, you know, I think they did it in with the End of Time first, but they launched the trailer exclusively at San Diego Comic-Con, and you started seeing more and more of that stuff happening. Whereas, you know, this is the trouble now. It's like priorities. I know JNT had his pantos back in the 80s, where he was pushing people into pantos from the show, but it's, if you're trying to make your product and then you're being taken away to do a Comic-Con in another country, that's incredibly disruptive. How you know, you've got to try and pick up where you left off. He's a fantastic actor, but I bet that took some time to get back into the swing of it.
Yeah, a bit later on, I'll show you. He talks about learning lines as a lead actor in Doctor Who is a push. And if you're taken away from the production for an extended weekend, when you're still rabbiting on, and he said, of course, it was heaven sent. Let's not forget, they broke the production for San Diego. Heaven sent. He was on his own. He said, and I'll show you, he says how difficult that was because it was a brand new concept. And then you go away to waffle about Doctor Who. Can't somebody else do that? And I know when he talks about John Pertwee and Tom Baker, we know they'd go on Swap Shop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Saturday Superstar. That was the level of it.
Yeah.
And maybe Tom Baker made a little trailer for the beginning of season 17. It's that level of it, isn't it?
Exactly. And then he was off to his villa in Spain or wherever, you know, for a rest.
Yeah. and because Doctor Who wasn't right up there, they weren't on. Well, I know the one show it didn't exist. They might have gone on nationwide as a fluke, 83 or something. What did they go on? You didn't have the Wogan show until later. They didn't go on much, you know. They just got on with the season. In other words, John, the stories had to speak for themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, again, so when you're saying about this, when he was doing this episode, he was pretty much on his own for that episode.
Yeah.
I'm also curious about how he feels about the latest productions of it, because where they're using the volume or whatever it's called, where it's all screens, as an actor, that must be quite frustrating. And again, they say it's to help the actor, but I don't know, being on location with the other actors, getting into the feel of it, I bet he doesn't like that either. I bet that would have driven him insane.
Yeah, you can try and read between the lines. I can't quote him, but that's, you know, he's obvious. I mean, I'm not far behind his era, really, so I can half guess what he wants from Doctor Who. So yes, this is interesting that right in the middle that something gets in the way, and I think we have, and he does say it, and I'll show you the quotes in a minute. He does think that Doctor Who has lost something by becoming so big, and. But my argument, John, is okay. It is where it is. I mean, it's not as big as it was. It's shrank. It's been in the wash. But yeah. I just don't think we have to be this way with it. If it wants to be global, it doesn't have to. I don't think it has to be on the global stage obsessively. I think it just needs to be bloody good, because I think they're forgetting that word of mouth can now go global.
Well, this is the thing that, you know, we've talked about before, and I'm very passionate about, is the fact that, and I've got, you know, like I said to you on another show, I've got American friends, and I've asked them, and they said what made Doctor Who special for them when they got into it at the Matt Smith era was it was the quaint Britishness of it. It was a British science fiction show. They didn't want it to be like the other sci-fi shows in the US. They wanted it to stay as Doctor Who. But the trouble is, as time has gone on, they keep diluting it so that it feels like just any other show that has been scheduled for commission in the US now. I mean, again, Russell T Davies, you know, in the Shooty era, he references episodes that he's riffing off. You know, what is it? Black Mirror was one, for an example. And again, my point was always Doctor Who, when it came back, was always leading the charge, and it was a trendsetter on the stories. And then suddenly it's gone back to it's following other shows and other stories, and
yeah, totally.
that's where you're in a slippery slope, because you're not going to get good stuff, because they're just looking for the next
Yeah,
the buzz thing to click into to put into the episode, to go, that will get another 5,000
well,
viewers.
if you think like that, which is to ape other shows, you're starting to just say, let's just fill the content, fill with some content, rather than saying the content drives everything.
Yeah.
Heaven sent, I know some people think it's a masterpiece, some people less so, but it was trying something, and I'll always applaud that. Matthew Burrows, thank you for your lovely comments. I wouldn't just shout you out just because you said something nice. I mean, I'm interested in people's ideas, but thank you, Matthew Burrows. And of course, as Garbage said, welcome to Adam T72 NYC. And it was a good comment. I flashed it up. And Tara, Doctor Who was under RTD become tedious, boring, non-creative, hardly sci-fi. Well, in my case, Tara, tick, 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 tick. I agree.
Yeah.
Any actor would struggle to engage in any meaningful way. They couldn't improve it or save it, no matter how good they are. He definitely, look, wherever you stand with Shooty, I think he was up against a hill, and I think it was difficult. I do. Now, he talked about branding, Peter Capaldi, but he goes on about this strange relationship and what it does to our brand. And I think if we do want future Doctor Who, we need to see it has to be managed different. And I do actually think RTD as a showrunner maybe wasn't a very good manager of this, because you have to manage the talent, and you have to manage more. And look, I'll show you what I mean. Capaldi says, my relationship with Doctor Who is a personal one. It's what I loved when I was a kid. I didn't say when I was a kid, oh, wouldn't it be great to take this around the world and sell it in territories and get Radio Times covers and make a lot of money? Well, it's almost, I could take it as a dig of those actors who now see it as a launchpad. And the show became very, very big. And it was never like that when I loved it. So now you could take it right out of context, John, and say that sentence is doing a lot of work there. It was never like that when I loved it.
Yes.
So it became a different thing. I think the responsibilities of playing the part become more than when, I don't know what I've done there.
Yeah.
So I sense he thinks it's changed too much, and maybe under his era as well. And I sense that he sees as one of the problems, it's this globalization of Doctor Who.
Yeah, I agree with him 100%. It's I think with the RTD1 era and up to the Moffat era, there was still an essence of Doctor Who about it, in my opinion. That's why I enjoyed it. There were still monsters. There was still the TARDIS. The Doctor, for me, behaved like the Doctor. But now, that last era, there's no Doctor there whatsoever. It's and I think again, on their quest to make it a global brand, they've even admitted to it, haven't they? That they also focus on like the TikTok crowd. Now, if you're starting to make TikTok stuff, what people are responding to on TikTok is going to be part of your production mindset and driving the stories. That's a slippery slope as well.
Well, there's a few interesting points here, and I want to add them while my senior citizen brain nearly kicks off. Tim Bex, you've hit the nail on the head. Keep the quality up and the brand will follow. And I was just
it must mean you. It wouldn't be me.
Terrified Rump, put out a quality product and it will go global naturally. And the other thing I was going to say, John, is sometimes on ratings we quote the Line of Duty. And when they announce if there's going to be a new series of Line of Duty or not, if people don't know, it's a police series in Britain, but which is very popular. And they don't do a show every year. They don't do a series every year. They make a series when they've got an idea.
Yeah.
And I actually I would actually buy more into the idea that Doctor Who, at 62 years old, maybe needs to wait for the next big idea for a series and then it goes again, rather than trying to fill BBC One with crud.
Yeah, I mean, I've said to you quite often, I feel that Doctor Who needs to be at least a decade away. I know it's not what people like to hear, but it needs time to actually be missed again.
Yeah.
And it's not missed now. And I think also you've got all of the propaganda that has just infected every element of the franchise, that that needs a good 10 years away to just purge all of that, to give it a fighting chance of coming back and being successful again. Every time that you get a new production, especially with the current production team, it's diminishing returns. They're diluting what Doctor Who is every single time they come back, in my opinion.
And never let anybody tamper with Classic Who. I mean, because this is how bad it could look.
I am the bomb. The master of the fifth galaxy has...
You seem lost, Representative Zephon. Here's your place next to me.
The seventh meeting of its sessions. I have important news.
Hot taser lady.
Garbage Who, before I forget, Garbage Who helped me do that. So thank you, Garbage Who. 350 subscribers. Keep him building, as well as our good old John here, Sci-Fi Chronicles
thank you.
79. Sunday he's on doing various things. So there you go. So yes, never tamper with Classic Who, because that's how it might end up.
You know what? As she was coming down the ramp there, I expected the music to be sisters are doing it for themselves, singing or playing in the background, because I always laugh at the Shooty era and what I've seen of the latest. The ladies are in control. They're running the show. They are the future,
Yeah, which fine as a message. I mean, you can have that, but why diminish men at the same time?
Balance. Yeah.
What that Colonel Ibrahim is just some sort of bloke who just gives a good time in bed now and again. Now, basically, I mean, that's it. She interrupts him. She's quite nasty with him.
Well, he does sweet FA as an officer for unit, for what I saw in the shoot.
Well, yeah, he's waiting to think, what can I do in bed? Because Kate's very demanding.
5 rounds rapid.
That is a Doctor Who reference, everybody. YouTube, don't take me off. Don't mention the gel guard. And Marie, I did notice. I was in charge of punctuality. I spot everything. Marie, naughty step or detention for an hour. Or as my little nephew Aaron used to say when I took him to school one day when you're allowed, and he said, when the naughty kids in the room were talking, he said, I'll give them 1,000 hours retention. So, oh God, it sounds painful. That you'll get a hernia. So there you go. So yes, he was talking about the spoiling of the brand. This man knows what he's talking about. As I said, it's not just him. If John Pertwee was alive, if you could have a brilliant interview when he's not being cheeky, Tom Baker. And Peter Davison already talks sense. If you got them all in a room, I tell you what, it was be an outstanding chat about where things should be with a future Doctor Who series, because I think they all know. They know where the pitfalls are. They know where the mistakes were. And I did argue, didn't I, a few months ago, that it's not a stupid idea to think that Peter Davison could be some sort of showrunner custodian in future.
Yeah.
He's a
Same with
director.
Capaldi.
Yeah,
You
look
know,
at his
Capaldi
five-ish
does it.
shooters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yes, Capaldi's a producer. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with it. It's just whether we can have him back because we upset him and we
Yeah.
insulted him
Yeah.
as a program.
I mean,
Uh,
again, you know, I still am glad that we had Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. I never thought I would get that lucky. You know, such a fantastic actor, and it's such a shame that, you know, allegedly how badly he was treated. You know, and it annoys me because I actually think there was more that he could give as well.
well, it's like Tom Baker with the 7 years. There's things you can develop. John Pertwee, there's things you develop. When you're there long, this 3 years rule I can't stand.
Yeah.
Squinty Mint, I don't think it will ever come back as a main show if it goes away for a few years. If I was the BBC, I'd commission it on the strength of individual scripts. I agree. Squinty Mint, the best thing for Doctor Who is it will only come back when whoever is in the future pitches a damn good idea. And if it's not a good idea, but they're saying here's season, 75, nah.
Yeah.
And we've got Daleks and Cybermen and Zygons, and we've got Sutek. Nah, go away. Stop riding on the back of other people's talent. Come back when you've got a good idea for this program. That's
Yeah.
it.
What was his last big idea? Or was it Space Babies? Was it Space Babies?
I will try and be very reasonable. I'm trying to think. I think is what he would say talking to
Midnight
a
thing.
relative. I think his best idea he would say was the spin-off, because he came up with the idea of the spin-off before the Doctor Who return. And also he can have you won't have seen in the credits, has everyone seen in the credits there's about 25 executive producers? He's not one of them. It says idea originated by RTD. He owns the bloody idea.
Yeah, there you go. Is it? I mean, I haven't seen it. Is it basically Children of Earth Mark II so far?
That's what I said, with fish. Yeah. And wombles, yeah. So here we go. This is the reference I was trying to make. The Big Trouble with Heaven Sent was in the middle of it. This is part of the branding. I had to go to San Diego. We stopped for a weekend and had to go and promote Doctor Who in America for 3 or 4 days. Now, he then says this caused so many difficulties for him, and would anyone, I think. I also think when I became Doctor Who, it becomes it becomes irrelevant because you're the face of a brand, which is not my relationship with it. So it becomes slightly trickier and more trying to protect your own relationship with it while also selling it and also keeping everybody in work down in Cardiff and having the responsibilities to keep the show. Do you know what? And this, I am going to compare to our last Doctor here. He
cares.
is so, like Chris Eccleston, who, as you know, was, blacklisted. He is aware that if he tanks the show, if he gets the promotion run, which he doesn't like, and I don't blame him, that there's a lot of people's jobs on the line. So he took it very responsibly. And that's what you want your Doctor Who lead actor to do. I feel that's not where we were of recent note. He did promote it. I mean, Ncuti Gatwa was everywhere, whether he had any choice. But you promote the job not in just Comic Cons, but in how you speak, what you say in interviews, everything else as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's a lot of pressure, but he was happy. He was willing to bear it, wasn't he? And again, it just shows the character of the guy, that he cares about stuff like that, because from the alleged rumors of the current iteration or the previous iteration, that wasn't the case at all. It was I'm all right, Jack kind of mentality. So yeah,
I mean, and it's a very good self-censor. If somebody like Peter Capaldi, who actually established wise compared to Ncuti Gatwa recently, you go, hold on a minute, Peter Capaldi was pretty established. I remember him in Gregory's Girl way back. So, he's established as an actor. And yes, I remember that moment. Was it Zoe Ball when she introduced the new Doctor?
Yeah.
And he walked on. And I thought, they've got Peter Capaldi, and whoa, this is going to be stratospheric.
Oh,
Absolutely. And
so good. But Day of the Doctor, you know, no, all 13 when the, you
yeah,
know, that, and you see him with the eyes, and you're just like, I punched the air at that point. I was like, I cannot wait to see this. This looks like a Doctor who is going to not take any rubbish whatsoever. He's going for it. And again, that's what I thought we'd get. And in the first season, we got that. And sadly, they diluted it down just to make him more appealing to the ones that are used to a younger Doctor. And he was still great, but not anywhere near as good as it was in the first season. He was
yeah.
great.
And so classic Brendan. I start a sentence and then I start to go, where was I going with that? Yeah, and the point was that it's a very good self-censor, knowing that you are holding a show. And therefore, if you do talk to Variety magazine or you do talk to a certain brand, be careful that you don't start to do certain politics that might get people angry about the show you're responsible for. And
Yeah.
eventually, if it diminishes in ratings and various other things, and I'm sorry, but if people disagree with me, why is season 3 not commissioned yet? Why did Disney walk away if everything
Yep.
was hunky dory?
Yep.
So having a doctor actor like Peter Capaldi self-censoring is good. Shooty Gatwa didn't self-censor, and actually sometimes, by the way, those interviews when he said go and touch grass and stuff, he was sat next to the showrunner who was just kind of going, yeah, fill your boots, say all
Yeah.
this because I think the same as you. He
Egging him
wasn't
on.
actually looking
Yeah.
after the brand.
No, and that's what I find. I've said to you before. This is what I find so maddening about it, because there was always that quote about from Russell T Davies about he reprimanded him for, you know, the way for, I think it was smoking in front of kids, but then he'll tell people to go and touch grass and do all of that, not a peep. And it's like, sorry, is there like two versions of RTD, like as a clone version as well,
Yeah.
that's not acceptable, and the other one is like, oh well, we can say whatever we want. It's crazy. Really weird production team.
I mean,
Really weird.
when Shooty or any doctor says something wrong, I'm sure there should be hauled into the office, and this should happen. I mean, I don't mean it, but you know what I mean. Told
It's
you
coming.
so.
It's coming.
And by the way, if everyone thinks God, Brendan keeps doing fart stuff, it's because the seasons under RTD tended to like fart monsters. So it's very meta. And I just want to mention this. I've done it and mentioned it before. My source said Shooty wanted to do brand deals, but he was stopped. So basically, it's interesting that Peter Capaldi talks about he had to stop making Doctor Who to then, promote the brand. Shooty wanted to get out of Doctor Who to promote his brand. Fascinating, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I've said this to you to people before, and I think we're at a point now where, again, I can't speak to them individually, but people see the role of the Doctor now as a stepping stone as opposed to a fantastic character to play. It's a step towards Hollywood for them more than ever. So I just don't think they care about it like we do, or previous actors cared when they got the role.
But isn't it funny though? If you really look at the wider media, John, a lot of Hollywood actors are getting out of Hollywood and they want to be in a TV series on Netflix or something else. That's where the money is. And we know we've seen. I mean, who's the X Factor actress? I've forgotten her. Gillian
Anderson.
Yeah, people like that. They've moved from LA. They're more into series like Sex Education and various other things. I could think of multitude. Kevin Spacey moved into TV series famously. So many. So Hollywood isn't the be all and end all. That's not where you want to end up. You want to end up on a TV show, which is what Shooty was.
And Hollywood's dying. you know, regardless of what anyone says. I mean, you know, if this merger with Warner Bros. And Netflix goes through, that's another death knell for it. So again, you know, get yourself a good series, you know, get stuck into that for several seasons.
Doctor Who. So he says, because this is what's interesting. I'm talking about he has wise words, does Peter Capaldi, about being the lead actor, he's been responsible for the brand where it's gone wrong. I think it's fascinating. He says, and by the way, this is, as you can see, I got this from a very good podcast by Billy Barnell, Half the Picture, it's called. I was lucky that I was older, that I wasn't a young actor. You see, I've just done a trick with Shooty there. Who still had a huge career that they wanted to pursue, or was going to clubs or pubs or anything like that. I was quiet and remained quite a dull person in that respect. So there was nothing really. I used to have press sitting outside my house and paparazzi and all that. But there was nothing for them to see other than me going to Marks and Spencer's to get the macaroni and cheese for tea. So they got fed up. It's very exposing. It makes you feel vulnerable. It's also delightful. It's absolutely wonderful to have people look on you as Doctor Who and smile at you and be cheered up simply by your presence. And you don't want to disappoint people. So here it is, brand new. And I'm going to be fair with Shooty here. Was he ready for this sort of press intrusion? Was he ready for this sort of responsibility? And whether he mesmerized RTD and Bad Wolf in the interview, there were other actors there who maybe could have been more responsible and could have maybe been better regarding the press intrusion and interviews. And I think it's the full package that they need to pick for the next Doctor.
I think you're right. I don't think he was ready. I think again, this goes back to what I was saying, is I don't think that he respected the role of the Doctor and everything that came with it. You know, the example I've given before is, you know, where he's putting photos out of himself in the changing rooms at a gym in his underpants, you know, and doing all of that. That's not respecting the role at all. That's I'm going to do whatever I want. Stuff the rest of it, I don't care what the kids see. That's not good. And I think you're right. It needs sensible people back in the room where they do bring someone in and they go, look, if you take on this role, this is what you're going to get with it. You're going to get the good, you're going to get the bad, but you've got to prepare yourself for it. Is this something that you think you can take on? And you have that conversation. And then if they accept it, they know what they're going into. That would be a common sense approach, I would think.
Yeah, and actually, I'm taking what Peter Capaldi has said very carefully here. He has said earlier about John Pertwee. Mind you, John Pertwee was very good at promoting the brand, I have to say. But what I'm saying is, because they want it to be global and all the rest of it, actually, you have to be extremely careful which actor you pick now. Can they hold the brand together? Can they cope with all the breaking of filming to go and do this, that, and the other, because there are rumors about Shooty not always knowing his lines, that sort of thing. And I'm actually saying this properly. We had the discussion recently about was Shooty sacked from Doctor Who, whether he was or not, and we've heard that he probably was kind of nudged. It was because of lots of things like production delays he wanted out, last-minute production overhauls and reshoots, rumours of political backlash and divisive stance. Well, that's not looking after the brand, is it? Lack of fanfare and immediate show hiatus, one of the shortest tenures. We know from talking to the source, I heard it from the media and execs in the room, my source, lovely man, media producer, doesn't mention he's a Doctor Who fan when he's in all these rooms. They just were talking about Shooty, that there were challenges with the talent. Now, this is the issue. It's a sign that they're not coping. And that's therefore not Shooty's fault per se. That is the fault of the person who selected him.
I agree 100%. And I think the trouble you've got now is the fact that instead of doing the sensible thing, and again, the BBC aren't capable of doing the sensible thing these days and the right thing these days. They go, oh, you know, the guy that, you know, has completely tanked and destroyed the brand of Doctor Who. We're going to give him another go. you know, because he's bound to get it right this time, everybody. He's absolutely sunk it. The brand is toxic now. But hang on a minute, let's give him another go, because he's got to get it right at some point. Come on, everyone. Remember 2005? Yeah, don't worry about Shooty and all of that nonsense. We'll give him another go. And that's the nonsense we're at with the BBC right now.
Yeah, and you can see here Peter Capaldi. Peter Capaldi, remember, established actor. He said, Matt and David were lovely. I spoke to them and they were great. David said to me, you will be very visible. And I didn't really quite know what he meant. Now, remember, a bright man, he knows the score, he loves Doctor Who. He still didn't get the measure right. But I soon learned that it just meant you were suddenly recognised all the time, which was quite nice. It was a little scary. It was scary because I knew that life would change in some way. And I said, Jeannie, once that's out of the bottle, you can't put it back, you know. So if you lose your privacy to that degree, it's quite an extreme feeling. It makes you quite vulnerable. And the other thing he said to add to that is Matt used to talk about it quite a lot. He used to say that there's the knock on the door because you do your filming and you get like half an hour for lunch and you go, oh, shall I eat lunch or shall I try and sleep? You go to a trailer and there's somebody there who says, you know, an MP's just arrived with his kids. Can he visit the TARDIS? Would you like to show them around? You've got to show them around. And here's some new Doctor Who figures. Would you like to approve these? So it's fascinating, isn't it?
It's a circus.
Yeah. Peter Capaldi is trying to learn a script. He's the lead actor of a sci-fi fantasy show. And as you know, the lead actor's lines are gobbledygook sometimes, and there's a lot of them. He's also responsible for the brand not tanking. He's also aware that, you know, character options, signing a postcard, there's MPs to please. I mean, all these VIP nonsenses. Why weren't they protected from that? I mean, and I just wonder whether Peter Capaldi is kind of saying, well, it's good and it's bad and it's hard. Somebody like Ncuti Gatwa, for example, might have just thought this is overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're not just playing the role. You're the ambassador for the show as well. And I think that I don't think that was educated properly to Ncuti Gatwa before he got the part. Or if it was, he did a really damn poor, attempt at being a brand ambassador for what he said and his actions. I think for me, they need to control it more. They need to get some, you know, PR people protecting them a bit more. And again, you know, if you're having to do stuff like that, it should be scheduled things to at least limit the interference with the actual production process.
I would argue this is where, and look, RTD, I know he's been a good producer, he's written shows, I'm not knocking any of that, but what I'm saying is everyone has a level. There's things you're good at and there's things you're bad at, and so I'm trying to be fair. I don't think from everything I've read and heard that RTD is a good showrunner in the way that you manage the schedule, you manage the people within that schedule to look after them. And I know this is Peter Capaldi talking about the Moffat era, but then I'm projecting it onwards because we've ended up with a lead actor who's got walked after one season, because it was one season split into two, really, wasn't it? I mean, it was one filming block. So surely that's a concern for the BBC. And like when we have rumours about various things going on behind the scenes at Strictly Come Dancing, you think maybe we need somebody to protect the talent. We need somebody who says, hold on, this schedule is just ridiculous. I've got a lot of lines to learn that you've written, RTD. Can you just protect them here? They can't be waltzing off to San Diego. They can't be doing this catwalk. You know, what do we want? Do we want good Doctor Who? Do you want an amazing, mesmerising speech performance? Or do you want them just doing lots of marketing?
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, my view on it is that I don't think Bad Wolf and I don't think RTD are very, very good man management people. You know, we did it on a previous show, but again, you know, when you talk about all the controversies that have come out the last few years about the 2005 first era of RTD's production, and you then look as well about what's gone on allegedly with Ncuti Gatwa, you know, that doesn't sound like a team that is very good at managing, you know, the talent. I say that the talent because he's not. but it's unfortunately I just think you're actually at a point now where I agree, you need someone above them to actually be doing proper oversight.
Yeah,
You know,
if you're going global, you need a lot of different managers. I do laugh about the amount of executive producers, but
yeah.
who actually looks after whether Shooty is getting when I say sleep, you know what I mean. I'm just saying, is he knackered, and is he doing too many interviews, and is he doing too many, and actually keeps an eye on their blooming Twitter
But
feed and all the rest of it.
But what I don't understand about it, and again, this is from me, being a sci-fi fan. It's Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I watched a documentary about Deep Space Nine it's called What We Left Behind, and there's a woman on there, and she is like the production person responsible for looking after Avery Brooks, who was Captain Sisko in the series, and she's basically saying to him while they're filming, and he sat there, and she's saying, she's trying to get something out of him and he's not doing it, and he says something to her, and he says, you don't understand my personality, my humor, do you? And she goes, I've got to be honest with you, sir, I'm not sure you've even got one. And then with that, he changed and he went, right, okay, I want the camera coming in here. I want to do this. I want to do that. And after that, she said it was absolutely perfect. But she was literally there to make sure she was asking Avery Brooks, okay, what do you need from this shooting period? What is there anything else you need, to make them comfortable and make sure it's as slick a process for them as possible? Why is there no one like that on the production?
And I'm going to be extremely fair here, I hope. We've all heard Louise Jameson from the classic era talking about when Tom Baker was naughty, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe Doctor Who is that sort of show, and always has been, once it really started to develop its own kind of format, that actually it needs some sort of custodian, minder, because if the lead actor just gets up themselves or this sort of that, or is not coping. And I'm actually serious about that. I think Doctor Who is such a unique brand. Maybe it's not just a showrunner or a producer at the top who's just making the content and all the rest of it. Are we keeping an eye on whether the talent is actually behaving? The talent is projecting properly. The talent is right. Basically, I think there's another level because... So there you go. We've got the rumours about Shooty, but then you go back to Tom Baker and Louise Jameson, and you go, that was out of order too.
Yeah, it's brand management. It's you would think that they would be putting people in there to say, yeah, you're right. We need to make sure that the talent are looked after, but also they're behaving themselves. They know where the line is, and if they cross the line, that's it. There will be consequences to that because we've got to protect the brand. But certainly what you've had for quite a long time now is anybody on the production seems to be able to do what they want, and they can say what they want in public. They can antagonize people whenever they want. Someone should be higher up basically going, every time you do this, you're devaluing our brand. This might be a quick job for you where you'll be on your way in 3 years' time. But for us, we've got to try and rebuild it after you say these things. So there should be somebody looking out for this, and somebody who's sensible, that isn't thinking, oh, they can say what they want because they, politically they think a particular way. They should be neutral and just go, no, I'm here to protect the brand. That person's misbehaved. Verbal warning. Right. We'll move forward from there.
And those of us in normal jobs will just say this is, it's not hard. Richard Coleman, thank you very much. Unfortunately, Doctor Who has become more about the showrunner than the Doctor. And my God, how true is that, John? Because I know a lot of what RTD thinks. I know where he lives. You know what I mean? Because he did the Imagine documentary. You know an awful lot about his politics, the lot. And yet the Doctor's character has actually become more marginalized. It's all the companion. Again, to me, these aren't stories, sci-fi stories. These are soap opera stories. So Richard Coleman, too true. And before I let John come back in on that, let's have some proper storyline. And it is tea time after all, so I'm dovetailing it too.
One of the Doctor's gadgets, Don't want to miss the TARDIS, do we? The wounded thing in the capsule. Maybe it isn't the Doctor after all.
Tegan is absolutely right.
Then come on.
Doctor, you're better.
Perpetual regeneration. Life without end or form. Aye. Mordrin.
Quickly, we've got to take off. That man, I don't think he's the Doctor, but he...
Doctor!
You're not the Doctor.
You travel.
Doctor, that's him.
Welcome to my ship, Time Lord. I am Mordrin.
When did you last have the pleasure of eating a well-prepared meal?
It's been a while now. I'm still streaming. And I think John feels the same. But yes, first of all, Garbage, you know, I say to Garbage, can you please do spaghetti with Maldron and Dead? And he delivers every time. So thank you, Garbage Who. 350 subscribers. Get him higher, everybody. But yes, there you go. A bit of Maldron Undead. So continuing with good old Capaldi's wise words on how to be a lead actor in Doctor Who and whether it's doable, it becomes a bit of a strain. I think Matt said to me, you don't want to be the one that let the kid go and he was horrible. I love Doctor Who, but he was horrible, which Matt would never ever be. You've always got that in the back of your head that if you're not very pleasant, then that will be toxic material, that'll be nuclear. So listen to Peter Capaldi. I'm responsible for everybody's job. I'm responsible for a brand. I've got lots of lines to learn. I've got to take a VIP MP round the TARDIS when I'd rather sleep. And I don't want to be short with a kid and make him realise that the Doctor's a bit of a dick. You know, it's hard.
I mean, I mean, again, that just shows he's a common sense person as well as a great actor, because that's what you should be doing. I mean, it's like when you go to a Comic-Con, and I've been to many of them, and you meet somebody there, you know, an actor, and you pay them the money to get the autograph and get the photo shoot, and they're pleasant to you. And that's how it should be. You know, you're being paid to have a photo or give an autograph. You're an actor. You should be able to act like you're happy and you're pleased to see everybody. You know, it's not difficult. And I think this is the trouble where you had the Gatwa era and you had the RTD element to it as well. And it was almost like it's a horrible era where these people seem to think they can shoot their gobs off.
Well, it's like Shooty thought he was Gary Lineker suddenly. You know, I'm going to announce things. I'm going to tell you about Middle East. I'm going to tell you about. It's like, oh no, just focus on your lines.
Yeah, and again, you know, with him, and he's insulting people who gave him the opportunity of having a good start in life. You know, and that's what annoys me with these people. It's you shoot your gobs off about just nice, hardworking people who, you know, you came to this country from somewhere that wasn't very nice, and you were given the opportunity to have a great start in life, and look where you are now, and all you keep doing is insulting people.
Tom by Chick, I can see what you're saying about the price. The classic actors don't. I was sat next to Colin Baker, and it wasn't that price. But then Liz Sladen got the idea from Carrie Fisher, didn't she? And, you know, the world changed.
I mean, to put that into perspective, a few years ago, I met Michael J. Fox. And Michael J. Fox at the time was 125 quid. Michael J. Fox. And Shooty Gatwa thinks he's worth 125 quid. No way.
Yeah, it's almost like you're projecting stardom onto yourself.
Check.
Capaldi said, Shooty's great. Now, I'm not going to even read into that because he's going to be polite. I think he's wonderful. It's a tough job. I think he's a brilliant Doctor. I think the show is sometimes a victim of its success. The show that I loved was tinier, a little small thing that survived. It just survived, and then it didn't. But nobody knew that it was worming its way into the culture in such a deep way. And I've said this a few times, that never mind it going global, because it has got into the British consciousness and British culture. And I didn't see it sneaking in, but it has actually, he's right. everybody's, Doctor Who is British and Doctor Who is part of GB and all the rest of it, and cultural history. And as soon as people see it as that totem, people want to own it. And then they take it away from what it was. And I think that's the pickle we're in. And I think very interesting, Capaldi, what you're saying there.
Absolutely, but it's the same with comic books. It's the same with DC and Marvel. It's the same with Star Wars. It's the same with Star Trek. They all had their fandoms, and everyone adored it. But you're right; these people creep into it, and this is what happens. Suddenly, we've got to make it for everybody, but it's completely altered from what it was that the people that were there to begin with loved. It's It's terrible what they've done.
And so, if you're understanding tonight, everybody, if you haven't seen the podcast, and please, you can see the title there. Please go and support it, because I think we should all support each other. That lad did a brilliant interview with Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
Capaldi said, "I'm not complaining, because it was blissful to be the center of attention for so long. You would run out of energy eventually, though. I think it would crush you in terms of it, because to me, the most important thing was doing the show. And that was a lot of work. It was wonderful work, but you had to learn all these lines. There wasn't enough time to learn the lines. You would turn up and deliver them, but by Thursday, you had lots of rewrites. By Friday, I no longer had a grasp of the lines. So I had to apologize to people in the morning on the set. And this is fascinating, because nothing seems to have changed." And then he says, "Then I discovered that there was a long-standing tradition amongst doctors going back to the beginning of having your script stuck on the TARDIS. But I don't like that. I'd rather have a grasp of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So let's join everything together. Sometimes you have to fly off to San Diego or wherever else and promote. And these are VIP. You're watching your back. They're following you to Marks and Spencer's. There's rewrites of the script. It's already laden with stuff you've got to do, last minute rewrites, and you want to be on top of your material. It just sounds to me as though we're putting one thing before the other, and the one thing should be product quality, and other things are getting in the way. And sorry, John, I'll finish there.
That's right.
And to prize this brand, we need to retrieve this, and we need somebody, maybe not called a showrunner, who says, "No, the actors work." It's not a union rep. We need somebody who says, "No, that you've taken enough of them today. You've taken your pound of flesh. We need to manage this in a different way." This man is trying to sleep. He's trying to ponder how to deliver a great Zygon line. He can't be waltzing around the TARDIS talking to some VIP. Can we, back to brass tacks, please?
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think the other thing I would say, just following on from what you said, I mean, again, when you hear this, again, I'm not an actor, but I love what he says, because this is a guy that cares so much about the performance that he's putting in. He wants to read the whole script because he wants to basically picture in his head where he is and to get in the zone with it for when he does his performance. And it must have been an absolute nightmare to try and keep on top of that stuff. And I think you're right. I think they need someone to basically go, not, protect the talent, yes, and also discipline them when they get out of line, but make sure that they are rested enough so they can give you 100% every day they come to set.
Well, I used to be a former teacher.
Did you really?
Well, I can't say I used to be a former teacher. That makes no bloody sense. I used to be a teacher. Now I'm a former teacher. So I'm available, Bad Wolf. If you want me to be in charge of the talent, I'd sort them out. Marie was late tonight. I saw that. I'd be onto them. I'd be a stickler. I'd be like a Verity Lambert or a Biddy Baxter. Oh, I'd be onto it like a shot. That's what Doctor Who needs. A Biddy Baxter. That's what we need. She took no crap, did she? I mean, she sacked Richard Bacon. Whoa, you're out. Not happy. You've wrecked the Blue Peter brand because of not having it. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
she made him say sorry and all the rest of it. It was like a hostage video. Shooting Gatwa should have been, get your trousers on. I want you to do a video now and you apologize for how you've behaved.
Well, do you remember that half-hearted one that he did, like just before it was about to start season 1? And it was like, to the fans, just want to let you know, we love you. We really thank great. It's like,
We see
no,
you.
yeah. And you can even see, like, you know, the PR manager's laser sight from his rifle on Shooty's shirt at that point, getting him to do that.
No, it is. Richard Coleman, thank you very much. The global impact of Doctor Who is not about representation on screen. It's not about fake diversity. It's not about fake inclusion. The impact is its Britishness. But Richard, I'm going to be sarky. It seems to be it's got to be a certain type of Britishness that they think they have to show, and there's another Britishness that it's nasty. No,
Yeah.
this is the problem, Richard. I think I've got no problem with what you're saying. The snag is we're fighting in this country over what is the good Brit and the bad Brit. It's become part of a culture war that I didn't want Doctor Who to be part of.
Yeah, and again, it's very disappointing. You know, we've talked about it before. There are many stories in Doctor Who's history where, you know, they've talked about certain things politically, and you know, but the writers are intelligent enough to balance it and to make you think and to make you make the decision about where you sit with it. Now, trouble is, they're not doing that. They're basically telling you this is how you should think, and that's a completely different thing. And again, you cannot be the arbiters of what is right and what is wrong. You need balance, and there is no balance at the moment.
Yeah, totally. What you need is a bit of fun. So thank you, Richard Coleman. Let's see if this treat works for you as a thank you.
Stage. Bow. This way.
What is it?
A double cross. Gets more interesting by the minute.
The end of the Sontarans. Double bluff. Come on, the military there wouldn't be fooled by a double bluff, would they? They should.
Well, they like chocolate now as well, don't they? So
and they went blue for a while. They turned into Smurf. So Capaldi continued, the Doctor's a huge part and has a lot of big speeches. And you have to find a way to do those speeches that's different. You can't just stand there and present this information, because essentially you present this information to get the plot moving. But you can't do that. You have to find a way to illuminate these speeches or to make them more interesting. You have to be an entertainer. You've got to come up with ideas and figure that out and practice it. So it takes a while. Hint, hint, hint. Stop interrupting them. Stop pressuring them. Stop making them do too much. And I think this ultimately, Shooty will carry on. But RTD and the whole management team, and by God, there's a lot of them, they really needed to make sure he had enough time to work on the scripts, to work on being the Doctor, and not talking about whether he wears white knickers or not, or it's all froth. We're thinking and bothered about the wrong stuff. And here's a few. I'm not going to read all these speeches out. Everybody knows his speeches, and we all have our favourites. There's one of them. John, that's his regeneration speech, which I think went on too long a little bit. Ugh. Look at that. If you had to learn those lines, and it's all nice and love, and the children know what I'm talking about, and I thought, oh my God, it's
hard work doing a YouTube script for a solo recording, let alone learning all that.
Yes,
it's 10 minutes long. So yeah,
I mean that's very large, but this is, I think, I think, oh God, I'm trying to remember whether that was a Zygon one, but don't worry, I'm just giving examples, everybody. There's a Zygon one. When you've killed all the bad guys and it's all perfect and just and fair, when you've finally got it exactly the way you want it, what are you going to do with the people like you, the troublemakers? How are you going to protect your glorious revolution? I mean, he was eating, at the Zygon speech, he ate that, honestly. The quality of that, number one, it was well written. Number two, it was a great moment.
Yeah.
Number three, he was able to just spit the lines out. He'd thought about it. As he said, I'm an entertainer. I need to know how to make these lines sing.
Wonderful stuff. I mean, the writing is first rate. The acting is just on another level. And this is what I said to you before. When I look at the ones that came after him, They are not, even if it's not a great script, they are not capable of lifting it and elevating it. So you can go, okay, the story wasn't great, but that bit with the doctor was fantastic.
Yeah.
They are just not capable of doing it. They don't have the range, in my opinion. What Capaldi does here just shows what a fantastic actor he is, and he nailed it. And I don't know about you, but when this came on screen, I was like, yeah, come on, give me some more of it, you know.
Yeah, because
So good.
we call them doctor defining moments. Jodie Whittaker,
Yeah.
I think a lot of fandom does acknowledge, whether you supported a female doctor or not, didn't she? She didn't have that speech. Shooty, it seems to me, RTD and all the lovies seem to say, oh, in Dot and Bubble, that bit at the end. But I wasn't, no. And the speech against Conrad Clark in the TARDIS, no, because I was willing. It was so badly written by Pete McTighe that I was willing on the baddie.
Yeah.
But no, it has to elevate it. And so I don't buy into that argument.
Yeah.
Now, just to finish off on Heaven Sent, he talked about Heaven Sent. Remember the show where he's on his own, where he had to go to San Diego in the middle. They had 10 days, John, to make that. And 4 days they're in San Diego in the middle. And he said,
mad.
We knew that there were many levels in it. My responsibility would be to how to deliver the lines truthfully, effectively, and with enough resonance that they might touch the sides of the mystery of the whole thing. What it was really about, because in the end, you have to come to your own opinion on it. It's like a piece of music. It was reflective, it was philosophical, it was about being alive and being dead. It's also a monster movie. Now, it's good that he uses Heaven Sent as an example because 10 days, not much. He's on his own. He can't, how much script? How he had to kind of work out what the hell is going on with Rachel Talalay. And he said we'd sit down and we'd try and discuss it. Then I had to fly off to America. Then he has to go and talk to VIPs. Then he has to do this. Then he talks. Honestly, we're not putting the production quality first here. The man is trying his best, and this will knacker you. And sometimes he will want to be in his trailer and sleep. But I just think if this is the global Doctor Who, we shouldn't want it because we're diminishing it. We're wrecking the doctors. They want to leave. Shooty says it was his bad knees, but to be quite honest, he can make up whatever excuse he wants. I'd want out too because it sounds like it's just too much.
Oh, it sounds relentless. And, you're right. It should be about the production. This is going back to what you said about there needs to be someone in there to basically say, no, sorry, we've got production to finish on this. We're pushing back on it. If you want to take the trailer with you to Comic-Con in San Diego, that's fine. You can do that as an exclusive, but we can't, they are working on this. They cannot take 4 days out of it. And also Peter needs to rest,
John, isn't it stupid though? Peter Capaldi is sat down with the director with the script and they're trying to work out what it means. And they're trying to work out how to show it. And that must be killing all your creative energy and power. Meanwhile, somebody high up is saying you need to get on a plane to waffle on and promote a program that you still haven't made. Yeah. If you make it and it's rubbish, what's the point of the promotion? It's just cart before the horse. It's chicken and egg. Get the quality right, then try and promote it. Why are you promoting it when you haven't made it?
100%. And I think, but also from that, when he's working with Rachel, they're having conversations about it. And by the time he's done all the Comic-Con, he's got to start all over again because he's forgotten about what they were talking about. So, like you say, it sounds a nightmare. And to be honest with you, I just got even more respect for him. He's doing all this with an arm tied right behind his back, and yet he's still knocked out banger performances.
Yeah, and what's great, and I will keep saying this because I'm a little YouTuber like John is, and half the picture with Billy Barnell, good for you to get this. And if I'm going to use some of the material, please give him a like and a subscribe.
100%.
But to finish off, he said about Heaven Sent, really, I was sick of my own voice at the end of it. I was desperate to hear another actor. I was desperate to because also you bounce off the other actors. It was very intense because Rachel Talalay and I would hunker down between scenes and takes to try and figure out what was going on in the next scene and how to do it. That's called creative energy. That's what you want your Doctor Who actors and directors to be doing. That is priority 1, 2, and 3. Why the hell was he then sent to San Diego in the middle? It just, it defies belief. And if people are arguing, I know, but Doctor Who's global now. Well, maybe we need to control it. If it's out of control, somebody needs to control it. It's not a good enough excuse, John, is it, to say it's gone global? He has to. No, he doesn't.
Exactly right. And again, I tire with this nonsense about Doctor Who going global, because in my opinion, Doctor Who is never meant to be that global brand like a Star Trek and a Star Wars or a Marvel at that level. Yes, it's a very popular science fiction show, but what was great about it was the Britishness and how quaint it was, and the budget and the engaging performances. I think the trouble you've got now is it's driven by greed, yes, because they think, oh, wow, you know, we ship it worldwide, we ship it to the US, we're going to get more viewers, we'll get more people investing in the series, yada, yada, yada. It's just, it needs to be scaled back to, look, we're not launching it at midnight on Disney Plus. We're not launching it on midnight on Netflix or wherever it is. You know, we're going back to, this is a British science fiction series. We are launching it Saturday tea time, as an example, in the UK, and then whoever else gets it as well, and they can put it out when they want to do it. You know, that's how it should be, and it should be focusing on what you said a few minutes ago about the fact that the talent is looked after while production is on. They are not taken away from that production. It is managed. There's a coordination after the production's done, and you've got to do your press junkets and all of that. That's fine. That's part and parcel of it. But taking them away when they're trying to create and craft something is just ridiculous.
Well, it's actually it's absolutely crazy when you really think about it. You know, I used to go mad in teaching when sometimes a manager would say, "Can we examine the kids and give them a test?" And you said, "We haven't finished the book."
Yeah,
that's stupid. What do they say? You're weighing the pig before you fed the bloody pig. Come on, use your common sense. I feel as though so many managers are just not using. They're on big money, John. They should be thinking this through. Okay, we know the merits of RTD, good and bad. He can write a script for various things. I'm not going to get into that argument. So I'm not challenging that. But can he manage? I'm not too sure. Thank you, Richard Coleman. Thank you for your 60 clips, Brendan. Here's a cheeky one for you in the chat. You're like that kid who asks me a question just at the end of the lesson and it's lunchtime and you're thinking, I'm going to do it for yeah, RTD or JNT. And I have to say, it's a show in itself, isn't it, John?
Yeah, it is.
Because it's not as... I probably would... Oh, God, you know, if I was going to be very, very fair, there's merits to them both, of course. You see, RTD is splitting into two pieces. JNT just stayed too long, but he was trying to keep Doctor Who going. So... So it's hard, isn't it? Because he was there and he had lots of good ideas from season 18 all the way through. I mean, my God. RTD, we split into two, don't we?
Yeah, I agree. 100%. That'll be an interesting talking point at some point.
Yeah, Richard Coleman, we might have to try that one for a longer one. But thank you very much. And I always say thank you. You know, I'll always say thank you. So, you know, I'm talking about managing the talent. I mean, I'm good at it. Look at this. Hello.
So you managed the talent by killing the talent by that clip. It noted.
I broke health and safety accidentally. There was no kind of, we hadn't had the training. They said, don't touch the face of Bo. He doesn't like being touched. He sounds like Joan Clary. Marie, thank you very much. I have seen some very good comments from you earlier. I was just trying to fit everybody in. It's been very lively. No point in being global when nobody's watching. I love your irony there. I'd have loved you in my English class because a nice bit of playing of logic there going on.
Yeah.
How can you be global when you're tanking in your own country? I agree. I agree. Very clever. And of course, John, you know I'll have to do this. Well, I said the word clever. Does this work?
Secrets to unlock. Clever, clever boy.
It works
There you
perfectly.
go. There you go. Try my best, Marie. So yeah, bless him. He tried. I mean, gosh, like you. I'm in awe of what he tried to do. Now some may have noticed I had a Disparu and Sensefear show verbally advertised. We postponed it next week, everybody. Next week. He is coming on, don't you worry. It may not be Homer, Aqua, Plastic Apocalypse only. It may be the other two parts as well. So basically, we've just delayed it. That's all, everybody. Disparu is coming on the Sensefear. Oh, yes. Yes. And tomorrow night, it'll be missing episodes. And it'll be The Abominable Snowmen, me and Stefan. And we'll see what else we come up with. So, John, what mischief are you up to on your channel? As you talk, I may do that.
Yeah, no, thank you, my friend. Coming up this Sunday, we've got 2 episodes of Stargate SG1. We watch them in the Discord server all together, and then we comment along in the YouTube live chat. And then after that, we are doing season 1, episode 2 of the TV series Supernatural. So that is UK time, 8:30 p.m. and it is 12:30 p.m. PST in the USA. So if you want to do that, come and say hello and come and join us.
The dangers of going global. He now knows all the time zones in America.
Yeah. I don't consider myself talent, mate. So obviously I'm not being looked after.
Oh, get him. He knows every time zone going. So Tara here, most of the actors since Chibnall had no love of the show and little to work with as material. It became shallow and vacuous, mostly about showrunners on vanity. Same with Shooty himself, so shallow. I can see where you stand on this, Tara, and thank you very much. So you'll see me tomorrow night. You've got John on Sundays. There's a lot going on, and hopefully this was a nice distraction from talking about spin-off and sea water and sea devils and all the rest of it, because there's other things in the great universe to talk about. So thank you very much, John. Thanks to the thread. Thank you very much.
See ya.